Hey everyone, welcome back to Church and State. My name is Timothy Johnson. Let's get into this.
Really?
No, it's boogie time.
But before we do, it's been a week. It's been a long week. Lots of things happen. I think the most important thing is just that we all continue to remain grateful for what God has given us, but also this great nation that we have that God has provided for us to live in. With its flaws, it's still the best place to live. And so that's why we fight for it. And I had to remind myself of that this week. Because, for example, in my home state, California, we're fighting a tyrannical legislator who is out of control. They are trying to pass tyrannical bills like none other. And it can get kind of discouraging sometimes when you see stuff that goes through that you don't want to go through. Thankfully though, enough people have been calling and those bills have been dying like yesterday's news. But with that said, something that encouraged me this week was Galatians 6:9. It says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for we will reap a harvest in due time if we do not give up." Now, how does my week and Galatians tie into what we're dealing with in church and state, and what does it have to do with what's happening in today's world? Well, give you a perfect example. We're fighting 10 bills here in California. 2 of them are by the wayside now. For example, AB 1993, which just got defeated, would mandate that all workers in California, even independent contractors, would have to show proof of COVID vaccination in order to work in the state. That got defeated because they had so much opposition. Jack Hibbs at his church has real impact. It's a political ministry, and it's there to educate his congregation about what's happening in California, and so that they can be gatekeepers for the next generation. Exalt what is good, hate what is evil. And so his church, he influences probably 30, 40, 50,000 people. All these people are calling all these senators, their congressmen, saying, hey, vote no on this, we don't support it. That makes a big difference. The actual writer of the bill pulled her support from it and said we're not going to do it because of how much opposition she got. Now combine that with all the grassroots movements. Why do I say this? Imagine if Jack wasn't involved, or if Rob McCoy wasn't involved, or other people, other pastors, other churches weren't involved. Can you imagine? I mean, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Imagine if the church didn't advocate for the ending of slavery back in the day. Would we still have slavery today? That started in the church. Something to think about. And so that's why it's important to be involved. The church is actually supposed to act as the gatekeeper for Western society, that our values come from God, and that anything that doesn't line up with that, we need to question. But as we go through this fight of these 10 bills, 10 crazy people, these people are insane. California, Lord help us. It's important to remember and to think about, where would we be with an apathetic church or an apathetic people if we didn't care? You know what I mean? Listen to this clip. Whoa, before we go any further, thanks for watching. But if you like this content, if you like everything we're doing at Red Liberty Media, help us grow by becoming a Patreon subscriber today. The link will be in the description box below this. It supports everything we're doing, and you might get some merch out of it. Who knows? Thanks for your time, and now back to our program. In it, this pastor talks about how people say, well, don't mix the church and politics. And he says, well, guess what? Politics came into the church. Politics put their foot in the door when they started talking about these issues. So listen to this.
Religion hasn't become political. Politics has become religious. Our leaders are afraid to talk about things like gender. Our political voices are so terrified of being canceled, they bow to the most popular heresy of our day. I would venture to say this morning, you don't need to be a biologist in order to understand the difference between male and female. You don't need to be a philosopher in order to understand the difference between right and wrong. You don't need to be a social scientist in order to understand the importance of having moms and dads. See, the church has an obligation to speak truth in the public square. And if we don't, the religion of politics will swallow up the ability of free people to worship God as they see fit.
It's so important that we remember that. Something for all my fellow Californians to remember, and also something for us all of Americans to remember, is what Thomas Paine said. He said, "Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. 'Tis dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. The cause of America is in a great measure the cause of all mankind. Where say some is the kings of America, I'll tell you, friend, he reigns above. The Almighty implanted in us these inextinguishable feelings for good and wise purposes. They are the guardians of his image in our own heart. They distinguish us from the herd of common animals. Isn't that so good? Think about the reasons why people don't get engaged. Maybe they don't value what we have so much. The things that you value is what gets your time. So what gets your time? Maybe you can shift that time a little bit. Maybe you can appreciate the gift we've been given. Because maybe we don't value America because we have never fought for it. We have never need to fight for it. We just assume that someone else would do it. I think this is why generations past had so much patriotism. They fought for freedom. They fought for liberty. And those things that you fight for with everything you value. Think about marriage. For, like a husband and a wife who have fought for their marriage to be together. I know my parents were going to get divorced 3 times, and yet God healed them. They value that marriage now. And I think America for us needs to be that same way. We need to value America like we value our lives. We're called to be good stewards. And that means being a good steward with the freedom and the liberty, the gift of America that you've been given. What type of gatekeeper are you? Are you the gatekeeper that allows anything in? Or do you pick and choose what goes through your gate in your home? What goes through your nation? Is it right? Is it wrong? How do you distinguish that? All good stuff to consider. And so with that, we will see you next time on Church and State. Make sure to check out the rest of Red Liberty Media and everything we're doing. And by the way, shout out to King Nub. He just recently got fired from his job for disagreeing with somebody on some key issues. King Nub, shouts out to you, man. Putting everything on the line. Generations past will be proud. God bless you guys. I'll see you later.